Greetings, my brothers and sisters. How y'all doing today? Shalom and blessings. Hope all is well with you all. I want to come to you all today with a video explaining this diagram. A diagram that I drew up explaining cycles. These cycles are different cycles, but all pertaining to life, We have the cycles of the seasons, the cycles of the day, and the cycle of mankind. That's to say his rise and fall. And what I want to be understood is rather the understanding of where we are in this cycle and what is to be done, what these cycles correlate to, or the moments in the cycle, what they correlate to, and in seeking the Most High, like as I said, what is to be done. To start it out, I want to start with the circles in the midst of a circle. Now, the large circle represents a circle encircling two realities. So in this, we see that in life, there are two possibilities, In the cycle, you have light and you have darkness, You have ups and downs. Now, what's up, what's above, is the Garden of Eden, the circle on top, representing paradise, or the abode of mankind that the Most High intended for him, And below, we have the world, the abode of the fallen man, where the enemy rules, where his own desires rule. And so, as we see, there are two doorways in both worlds, in both realities, so to say. In Eden, the doorway is at the bottom, and it leads down. That doorway is death. That doorway is the tree of knowledge of good and evil that had led to the world, that we live in today by the fall of mankind. It's a doorway of darkness. And just like how it was a tree of knowledge of good and evil, so understand how the unknown darkness can be desired just for its sense of being unknown and the desire to know what it is, But mankind knew that it was evil and that it was death. But the indulgence of it is what was not. And so, in the world, we have a doorway that leads to life. Instead of darkness, it's full of light. Imagine a doorway in between two rooms. You have one that is light and one that is dark. One full of light and one full of darkness. If you stand in a room of darkness, that doorway is going to be light. But if you stand in a room of light, that doorway is going to be dark. And so understand that in the world, as it says, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil is in the midst of the garden, both in the midst of the garden. So understand that the tree of life, while we're in this world, is full of light. It is the doorway back into paradise. And when I think about it, I consider, how can it be seen, How can a tree of life be seen when, as I said, they are in the room of light, They can only see the tree of knowledge of good and evil as it is in the midst of the garden, Because the tree of knowledge of good and evil is dark. They are in a room of light already, where the tree of life, they pretty much, in a sense, reside in the tree of life, in a way, or under it, And so I don't want to get too carried away, but what I want to explain is that the tree of life is the doorway out of this world, you know, into paradise again. That paradise that most of us say that we seek, you know, the kingdom to come, you know, that heavenly abode, you know, that many say they seek. And so one thing to understand is that, as I said, the position that we're in physically, we are in the world, you know. We are in the world, and with understanding that we are in the world, there needs to be an understanding that there's action that needs to be taken that in order to find life again. As we are born in this world, it's important to understand that we're not just in this world just to live and just to experience it, but rather, as we live, to figure out how to overcome it. We can't figure out how to overcome it unless we figure out that there's something to overcome, you know. And so, looking at the larger circle, around it is listed the cycles, you know. Over here, starting with the spring, you have the spring, which is the rise of the man, which is the morning, to the summer at the peak, which is the day. As you see, the sun is at the top, the peak of the day, the peak of when the peak of the seasons, as far as, you know, the heat and the sun goes. And it is the peak of man, you know, rather in his time of fully learning and taking on the word of the Most High, how to be as a man, you know, how to keep and till the garden, on the understanding of not eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, all of these things, you know. As spring is rather the creation of the man, as the Most High forms him out of the dust of the ground and gives him life, you know. Now we have the fall after the summer. Fall representing also the evening as the time of day, you know, the going down of the sun and the fall of mankind. Now what this represents, I want it to be understood that evening, and also take acknowledgement that the words as they are spelled in English is English is a language after Hebrew, but Hebrew is the original language of the Bible, you know. And so the woman was called Eve, you know, in Hebrew, which is either in Hebrew it's spelled, it either sounds out Chava or Kava. But what I'm saying is that Eve, the name Eve and evening, representing the going down of the sun, the fall of, also representing the fall of man. Understand rather that this is around the time where the man grows a weakness towards the woman, and he starts to rather prioritize the woman over the Most High. You know, it's not that the woman is it's not that the woman was bad or is bad in the sense of creation. As the Father said, it is not good that the man should be alone. Therefore, he made the woman. But understand that it was in the man's weakness, a time of weakness, a time of desire, you know, a time of want, you know. And I get more into that in another video, to give more of an understanding of like the it, the sense of necessity and want, you know, in the beginning, in the garden, to more so explain why it's important rather to understand the necessity of the Most High above all, you know. But yeah, the evening representing the fall of mankind. And as you see, spring and fall are in between those two doorways. You know, they are in the middle, just as those two doorways are. Now, understand, after the fall comes the winter, where it's the coldest, you know. Around the time where the moon, which is down here, you know, the moon, or I believe the days get shorter, you know. It's the night in the time of day, and it's death in the time of man, in the cycle of man, you know. And so in the nighttime, you know, the moon is out, you know. Understand this: the Father created two great lights. Sun, the greater light to rule the day, and the moon, the lesser light to rule the night. The man embodies the sun. The woman embodies the moon. But understand, the light of the sun brings about the day. The light of the moon reflects from the sun and shines in the night, you know. But it's darkness all around. And that I want to explain how a man is to be in the image of the Most High, how his character, in a sense, is supposed to rather bring about a sense of a radiant light that shows, you know, and can't be denied. Not in a sense of pride, but just in a sense of righteousness. Now, the woman is made as the weaker vessel, the lesser light, and she still has a light, but she's what you can even see through the time of the day is that she's in the dark. She's more vulnerable to the darkness. And like I said, that's because she's made, the concept of the woman is that she's made in a weak time of the man. So she is the feeling of him that he desired in that weak moment, made, you know, into brought to life. And the woman is here to help the man, you know. The woman has a place, you know, but she's more vulnerable and susceptible to darkness. She's more vulnerable and susceptible to the temptations of darkness, you know. And so I wanted to be understood the importance of a man knowing how to lead and a woman knowing the man and man to look to, you know. As I said, the moon's light reflects out from the sun, you know. And so think about it. As a woman, let's say a woman in a feeling of darkness or in, you know, a downtime, you really have to question, you know, a woman trying to do right. What manner of man do you seek after? A man that's going to reflect the sense of light. A man who you can look to in a sense of light, knowing that, you know, in a sense, so long as you look to him, you will feel okay, you know. Or rather, if you find a man in the dark, but he does not shine, and he doesn't give a sense of shine, but only, I mean, he doesn't radiate a light, but only give a sense of charm. What manner of man is that? A man, it's like, so long as the woman focuses on or looks to the right man, the darkness around her feels as if it doesn't even exist, because he gives the feeling that, you know, it's everything is okay. You know, he gives her a sense of light, you know. And so understand that why, as the man look to the woman, you know, he rather follow after her mistakes. That's why, you know, in the cycle that I speak of, it's important to understand that, you know, the winter, the night, it represents also the fall of mankind, the death of mankind, where the sun is not out as much, you know. But going back to the beginning of the creation of mankind, understand this. Right now we are in the world, a world of death, you know. The fallen ways of mankind rule, and the enemy seeks to keep it going. Now it takes for us as mankind to desire, for one, to despise this state of death that we live in. You have to grow weary, you know, of this wickedness and this fallen world, this world of lies, you know, and to truly seek life in order to spring and rise again, you know. The desire for life, the desire to breathe truly, you know, which comes back to the spring in the morning. The Most High breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Understand that as we're in this world, if we don't have any sense of direction or purpose, we're merely just going to feel like we're merely just, you know, flesh, you know, moving and experiencing, but it's not life, you know. Life, you have to desire it in order for it to be within you. And in order to receive it, you have to want it. You have to want it so much that you rather feel like you need it. There's nothing in this world worth your life. And to explain another thing, well, I don't wanna get too carried away. I can explain more concepts on this, but I want it to be understood that it's never the objective. Well, the objective is that man and woman wake up and understand their positions and the will of the Most High in order to find life again. You know, this world is like a trap, and you don't know when things can necessarily end. So while we live, it's important that you get out of this mental trap and wake up. And though we wake up, we go through this cycle even as we're in the world. If you seek the truth and you found the truth, you know, you can be as that man who rose up and is above the world, you know, in full acknowledgement and reverence and obedience to the Most High, like the peak, like the day, like the summer. Any woman, you know, any woman, guess what? The moon still exists. The moon still is in the summer, you know. The moon still is in these cycles of, you know, the spring and things like that. What I'm saying is that let your abode be in the light, you know, the time of light. exist in light, you know. Yeah. And understand also in the beginning, when man was made, it said that a mist went up from the ground. You know, that mist that went up from the ground, because it did not rain yet, understand that that mist was a spring. And so we have the word spring in English. As I said, Hebrew was the first language, but the understanding of it being a spring, and English naming spring the time of the season, spring, knowing that it's also the time of the rise of man, that's just wordplay by English, but it's an understanding that spring represents the rise of man, and that it was a spring that watered the ground, you know, the water the face of the ground for the man to be molded. You know, mud is created by moisture, so that moisture had to come from something, but not from rain, but from a ground water. So yeah, and I also get into another video explaining the Hebrew terms of spring and winter, you know, how it correlates with the rise and fall of man. But with this, you know, I hope y'all can understand it. I may make another video seeking to explain it more clearly if not understood, you know, but I'm on a journey to bring this to awareness and understanding, so bear with me. I pray y'all be blessed in the name of the only begotten Son. I praise be our Father, I'll be Yahuwah. Amen.